Welcome to the Effective Guide to AKT. Hi, my name is Dr. Erwin. I sat the AKT myself and has helped many doctors. I know exactly how it feels to prepare for this test. If you want to plan effectively, focus your revision, and boost your productivity, this video series is made for you. I will share with you proven strategies and learning techniques that I've used personally to pass the AKT. If you don't want to miss any future videos in the Effective Guide to AKT series, please consider subscribing now. If this is the first time you're watching the Effective Guide to AKT series, I suggest you pause this video and watch episode 1 and 2 of the series, where we covered active recall and spaced repetition. It will make more sense for you to watch the first and second episode and then come back to this episode. Sleep is essential in learning and building new memory. Make sure you don't neglect your sleep. The quality of your sleep impacts every aspect of your life. It is counterintuitive to sacrifice your sleep and pull an all-nighter to revise. Most of what you learn does not get stored if you lose sleep. Matthew Walker, author of Why We Sleep, has written about the detrimental effects of sleep deprivation on our mood, health, memory, and concentration. If you're waking up early to do multiple choice questions, consider going to bed earlier so you give yourself enough time for adequate sleep. So, if you're waking up half an hour earlier, make sure you go to bed half an hour earlier. Protect your sleep. Let's take a look at key resources. You've got your guidelines. You've got nice CKS, clinical knowledge summaries, which is very useful because you have the clinical scenarios. So this is very useful to refer to. When you're working, you're seeing patients who have some specific problems, refer to nice CKS and reinforce your learning. Then you have your standard NICE guidance and SIGN guidance. So these guidance are also important to revise. However, remember the AKT is not about testing your knowledge of guidelines. It's about applying these guidances to formulate clinical management. Next, you've got your BNF for children, and GMC. Have a read at the first few chapters and the main drug classes in the BNF. Please also read Good Medical Practice on the GMC. When it comes to books, I've kept it short list. So there's Oxford Handbook of General Practice, which is a good reference book, especially for organization. However, with clinical management, some of it is outdated. You also have Innovate Journal, which is very good in the first part of your revision. And then if you have not had much teaching on statistics, Medical Statistics Made Easy by Harris and Taylor. As an RCGP member and AIT, you have access to the Essential Knowledge Update and podcast. So these are very good e-learning to go through, especially if you find a topic complex. Read through the AKT examiner's feedback. We've already mentioned about these resources. There's also online resources. Bradford VTS is a very good website for GP registrars to refer to. Another website for clinical domain is a4medicine.co.uk. They have free resources that are brilliantly summarized in clinical knowledge in a simple A4 size, colorful flowchart with useful graphics. If you like to learn with videos, you can check eMedica YouTube channel that covers MRCGP AKT 30-day challenge and high-yield topics. Last but not least, Aura Medical Education YouTube channel provides short videos to revise for clinical domains. Concept learning is a way of learning that allows you to organize knowledge in your brain effectively. Instead of memorizing a list of facts, concept learning promotes understanding of the concept. You learn the meaning behind the facts. Start by classifying causes, drugs, or risk factors and weave each part in a story. Concept learning is a strategy which requires you to compare groups or categories that contain concept-relevant features with groups or categories that may not contain concept-relevant features. An example would be using mnemonic to learn the P450 enzyme inhibitor or inducer. The mnemonic I use for enzyme inducers is SCRAP-GP, sulfonylurea, carbamazepine, rifampicin, alcohol, phenytoin, grisofulvin, and phenobarbital. Now for enzyme inhibitors, the mnemonic is sickfaces.com. Sodium valproate, isoniazid, cimetidine, ketoconazole, fluconazole, alcohol, mainly binge drinking, chloramphenicol, erythromycin, sulfonamides, ciprofloxacin, omeprazole, and metronidazole. Notice how many antimicrobials are in the list of enzyme inhibitors. Another method is using imagine association to picture something that will stick in your mind. The way to do this is to find relationships that link your concepts. The crazier it is, the more memorable it is. So for example, if you picture a baby who cannot see, cannot pee, and cannot climb a tree, that will help you to remember about Ray's syndrome, which is classically described as a triad of conjunctivitis, urethritis, and arthritis. So picture a baby who can't see, can't pee, and can't climb a tree. A more advanced technique is the method of loci. This has been used by world memory champions, and it's also known as the memory palace technique. Our brain is better at remembering images and location as opposed to abstract elements. Memory palace combines visualization of familiar places and spatial memory. Have you ever had one of these times when you forgot what you were about to do and you had to go back to the place where you were so that you could remember what you were going to do next? With memory palace, you use spatial memory and you combine it with visualization. The way to do this is to draw a mind map and connect the information for you to understand and use memory palace to store it. Imagine walking through your house with information plastered all over the walls. Walk through the same route during recall. Be mindful, the AKT does not merely test information retention, it tests how you apply your knowledge. Be careful when you use a memory palace because it's time consuming. Ask yourself whether it's worth remembering this knowledge before you actually go into building it in your memory palace. Bear in mind, the bulk of your score is obtained in clinical domain, which accounts for 80% of the total marks. Focus your preparation primarily consolidating clinical knowledge. Evidence interpretation domain accounts for 10% of the total marks. Make sure you don't neglect this domain. This is about understanding the principle of audit and its application in assessing the quality of care. You also need to have an understanding the application of critical appraisal skills, which will be tested in a number of formats. For example, the interpretation of research data and the application of evidence-based clinical practice. This section causes a lot of stress for many trainees. Remember, evidence and interpretation only accounts for 10% of your mark and need not to be that stressful. Learn the basic concepts such as sensitivity, specificity, p-value, and common plots. Avoid spending too much time trying to understand complex statistical concepts that are low yield. Organizational domain accounts for another 10% of the total mark. This domain is about understanding of informatics, medical legal issues, administration, and practice management. These are easy marks you don't want to leave on the table. Learn the key concepts and apply spaced repetition. Here's a list of high-yield topics that are often assessed in the organization domain. Regulatory frameworks, legal aspect, social services, example, certification, professional regulation, business aspects. You need to be aware about the GMS and the PMS contract and other GP contracts. Prescribing is also a hot topic, especially about controlled drugs. Do you know about the schedules? Appropriate use of resources, health and safety, and finally, ethical. There's a useful guide on assessment of fitness to drive for medical professionals on the government website. How to speed read. Reading is a skill as any other skill. Your reading speed can be calculated in words per minute. In the AKT, you will have to read through quickly and without losing comprehension. A challenge for many doctors is to get through all the questions within the time limit. If you can boost your reading speed, you'll have an edge during the AKT test. So in the next slide, we're going to test your reading speed. I'd like you to get a timer and measure how long you take to read all of this. This text is made up of 189 words. So to calculate your words per minute, you need to make 189 times 60 divided by your time in seconds. That gives you your reading speed. Now I'd like you to focus your gaze on this target. Keep your eyes focused at the center of this target. Do you see a dog at the peripheral of your vision? Do you see another dog appearing? Even you're focusing your gaze at the center of this target, you're still seeing the dogs when they appear. Earlier when you read the text, you probably had your gaze going from left to right, from end to end. Now imagine if you had two lines that come in closer towards the middle of the text. So now if you focus your gaze from left to right within the boundary of these lines, you still see the words that are outside of the boundary with your peripheral vision without losing any comprehension. So this technique is to allow you to use your gaze so that you don't have to go from one extreme end to the other. So you limit your gaze to the center of the page. Now I'd like you to have your timer ready again, and we're going to try this speed reading technique. So you can see there are two lines that are the boundaries, and make sure that your gaze is within this boundary as you read. This text is made of 176 words. To calculate your new reading speed, you need to have 176 times 60 divided by your time in seconds. With some training, you will be able to increase your reading speed without losing comprehension. As you get better at this, you can actually make the lines closer to the center of the page, so that you're only gazing a third of the center of the page. The second tip is to get comfortable reading faster. Read faster even if you sacrifice 10% comprehension temporarily. Practice reading at this pace for 5 minutes. Now I'd like you to read at a comfortable pace so you don't lose comprehension. By stepping out of your comfort zone, you learn to process information faster. Your perception changes such that when you read without losing comprehension, the new benchmark of your reading speed rises. If you found this video useful, grab your free case study where I show you exactly how to get the results you want fast. If you like this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future videos. Take care everybody. Bye bye.